What's up, everybody? Welcome to a special edition of Very Late Night Apostate of Mind. I am Mark Peralta, and I am so happy that you're here. I've got something really unique for you, and that is I will be doing a live rebuttal, refutal of a TikToker that's very influential, and she's got several videos titled Bible Tea. And I came across one that really grabbed my interest because it was doing a breakdown of the very first word of the book of Genesis in the Hebrew language, which is right up my alley because that's what I studied and where I concentrated the most in my seminary preparation was the Old Testament, especially the first 5 books of the Bible. So Genesis 1 is like my wheelhouse. And oh my goodness, this TikToker is doing unbelievable things with the text. You might as well light the Bible on fire. So, her name is Jalen Albania, who is an influencer on TikTok. She's got a section titled Bible Tea, where she's done several videos on TikTok where she opens the Bible and says all kinds of good stuff in it. She's got well over 500,000 followers on TikTok, so she's no small potatoes. And she speaks with lots of confidence. So I've got this one video prepared for you where I'm going to show you what she's doing, and then I will be doing an informal rebuttal of what she's teaching, which is a lot of misinformation, very inaccurate interpretation and use of the Hebrew language. I don't know where she learned this from. And this isn't for me to judge her because of what she's saying, but it's simply an opportunity for me to be able to at least clarify some things and debunk some of the lies that she is making here so that people are not misinformed. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and play Bible Tea Part 6, where she does a breakdown of Genesis 1, verse 1. It's not even the whole verse. It's the very first word. It's Bereshit in the Hebrew. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play the video, and I'll try to stop in between here and there, but I'm going to try to let it go through and then go back and pick on it part by part. And then I've also got slides prepared for you to show you. So here we go. Bible tea time.
It's Bible tea time.
In the beginning.
Okay, let's pause right there and look at this in Hebrew.
All right, so she opened up an interlinear, and what an interlinear version is a Bible that contains both the original language and a modern day language, in this case, English. And it'll do it where it'll have the Hebrew text, and then right underneath it, it'll include a translation of the text itself. So that's what you're looking at.
The Hebrew word for beginning is this word right here, Bereshit. And remember, they read from right to left. So we will break down every letter together.
Okay. First of all, that's not just a word. Bereshit is a combination of 3 things, and I'll get into detail as to what those 3 things are. But it's not just a word, and I'll explain later.
So from right to left, this is the letter Beit, Resh, Aleph, Shin, Yod, and Tav, which spells Bereshit, which means...
Well, it doesn't spell that. That's just how you read it. Okay.
Beginning. The letter Beit, or B, means tent, and the letter Resh, or R, means the chief, the head chief. Together, BR is read as bar, and together it means sun. The letter Aleph is kind of like a vowel, and it means Adonai, so we'll do a heart for God. The letter Shin means to destroy, so it's kind of like, looks like a claw, so that's how I remember it. This character means hand, the letter Yod. And this last character is Tav, which is T, and it means cross or covenant. summarize, Beit, Resh, Aleph, Shin, Yod, Tav spell Bereshit, which means the beginning, and it's already forming a sentence. The Son of God destroyed by his own hand on the cross.
Okay, wait. Hold on. All right. So that's what caught my attention. Now, notice what she has done so far. She's taken this word in Hebrew, Bereshit, and rather than just looking at a lexicon or a scholarly dictionary to see what the definition of Bereshit in Hebrew is, so that she can just translate it, which most Bibles will read something like "in the beginning," right? She's taken the time, or she maybe heard this from someone else, to find and give definitions for each of the individual letters of the word Bereshit, which, like I said, typically just translates when in the beginning or in the beginning, and that's generally it. And has now created a complete sentence from the meaning that she is claiming that each of these letters has, and created a complete new thought. But that's not all, folks. She does more. Let me go ahead and continue the video so that you can see.
But we're not done yet. Earlier, we discussed how Beit and Resh together is pronounced bar, which means son. So there are words.
All right, so now she's taken the first two letters and said these two letters mean bar, or are pronounced bar, and therefore that in that unit of those two letters is son, which is not actually Hebrew. Bar is Aramaic. You're reading Genesis 1, which is a Hebrew text. In Hebrew, son is ben, not bar, ben. So please correct that. Let me continue. Let's continue.
Words within this word. Another one is Shin, Yod, and Tav together.
So now she's taking the last three letters and coming up with another level of meaning, another layer of this onion.
It is read say it, but the English word is thorns. And if you want to look it up, the concordance number is H7898. Next, we have Resh, Aleph.
We're gonna double check the meaning of all that, but I'll just let this play until the end now.
And Shin, which is read as Rosh, and in English it means head. So just to prove it, we've got Resh, Aleph, and Shin right there. The next word we're going to discuss is Berosh, which is spelled with a B, R, and Shin. So it's
all right. So now the first four letters are another word in this composite. Okay.
This, except for Aleph.
Except for Aleph. So never mind that there's a letter there which conflicts with what she's doing, but she's like, just leave it out. It's okay.
So this means tree, cypress tree, actually. These two together, the Shin and Yod, means gift. And again, Tav means cross or covenant. Okay, let's try to put this together. The Son of God destroyed by his own hand on the cross with thorns on his head, hung up on a tree as a gift of the covenant.
Wait, so Jesus was in the beginning?
Yes.
All right. So you see what she's done now. She has taken the time to define for us the meaning of each of the individual Hebrew letters in this little word that typically just translates in the beginning, Bereshit in the Hebrew. And she's given us a whole new story. She's grafted Jesus into Genesis 1:1. She's successfully demonstrated a textbook example of biblical eisegesis, which is the practice, or the malpractice, I should say, of reading meaning into the text, which is one of the things that the New Testament authors are guilty of doing over and over again. Christian apologists are guilty of doing this all the time. They take a text or passage from the Hebrew Bible and they reinterpret it and they redefine it and they read Christ into it because, well, they're looking for confirmation of their beliefs. But Let me show you why I disagree with what Jalen has done. And I'm going to try to do my best to explain to you why she is incorrect in her conclusions, in her methodology, and why she is wrong in what she's claiming in the end. The Hebrew word bereshit from Genesis 1:1. The very first word, if you open up your Bible, the very first word you read is bereshit. What is that? What are we looking at? In the Hebrew language, it has a very interesting way of sort of economizing space. It'll oftentimes combine elements into one word, sort of like a compound word in English. But it does it with a little more than things like apostrophe S in the possessive case, like this is Mark's coffee. But it'll do more things. In this particular case, there are three identifiable segments or layers to this word. Layers or segments which cannot be separated, because the moment that you separate them incorrectly, it's the moment that you're now redefining it and you're completely changing the meaning of what you're reading. What are those three elements? The first element is the very first letter, which is in the Hebrew language, you read from right to left. And so that's that bait letter, the very letter that's in the color yellow with black. That letter bait, which in her video, she claims that
The letter bait or B means tent. And
okay, so she claims that letter means tent. Okay. Now, that cannot mean tent. The letter bait doesn't, it just doesn't mean tent, first of all. But this isn't just the letter bait. This is the letter bait with the two dots underneath it. And those two dots right under that letter are a symbol that gives that bait a different value. And that value is it turns that letter into a preposition. And that preposition is what is often translated as in. Another way of translating that bait preposition is at the beginning, in the beginning. The Jewish Publication Society in their Tanakh, they translate that as when in the beginning. So that is a preposition, and that preposition has a meaning: in, at, or when. I'll show you. This is the Hello, which is the Hebrew and Aramaic lexicon of the Old Testament. It's the standard lexicon that it's like that's the gold standard for translators. So preposition bait is in, at. In this case, it's doing something a little more than just in the beginning, but I'll just leave it at that. It doesn't, you cannot take the meaning of some obscure meaning of the letter itself and say, well, there's a bait there, and therefore you could just give that some odd meaning. But you cannot. It's just a preposition. It's a grammatical, it's just a particle that gives it a little more information than just simply saying beginning. It's, what about the beginning? It's in the beginning. It's at that very moment when things are starting to happen. Okay. Number two, the segment that's highlighted blue is one unit completely in the Hebrew. If you take it apart, like she did, and try to derive meaning from each of the individual letters, you're now creating something different. So these three letters are the stem of the word, okay? And those are Resh, Aleph, and Shin. Now, those three letters combined, or those three letters together, form the word that is translated usually as beginning. But let's look at the lexicon itself and see what it says about Resh. So Resh is, it typically translates as head, but it could also mean top, It means beginning. Now, here we go. Head, it could mean 200 men. It could also mean chief, beginning, top, even slave. It could mean start, chieftain, leader. So why so many definitions? Like if I'm a Bible translator and I'm trying to deal with this word, what am I supposed to do with this? Well, keep in mind that words are defined by context too. And so if I keep on translating the complete passage, I'm going to get a clear sense as a Bible scholar that what I'm writing, what I'm translating here is sort of a narrative of some sort, some prose, and there's a sequence of events. So that tells me that, you know, this is likely referring to the beginning of something, as opposed to just simply translating it as head or top, which wouldn't really make sense. In top, God created the heavens. It doesn't work. So it means beginning. Now, how does a scholar identify that what the intended meaning of that word relates to beginning more than any other? Well, there's the third part, or a third component of the word bereshit in the Hebrew is the very last part. The letters are blue in color but orange highlight. Those are the yod tav. And what that is, those are not individual letters. Those are a unit. And that unit is a suffix, is a grammatical particle that is suffixed to a noun or a substantive in order to change the gender of the word or of the noun, in this case, the noun from masculine to feminine. And what that does, it qualifies that more specific meaning of beginning versus chief or top as words that if they take on different meanings depending on their gender. And that's a phenomena of the Hebrew language, which is completely absent from English because English words are genderless. But in Hebrew, they do possess gender, and that gender it gives it a more specific meaning. And in this case, the changing of the gender of Rosh, which would otherwise be translated as top or head or chief, by changing it to a female gender, now it means beginning. So in the beginning, bereshit. That's it. That's how the Hebrew language works. In this case, you've got a prefix followed by a 3-letter root word, which just means beginning, and a suffix, which is another particle that changes the gender. The minute that you're translated the meaning of each of those individual letters and then hastily generalizing some sort of story now that you've combined all those meanings that you've chosen arbitrarily, because if you look up the definition for each of those letters, there are tons of options, and that's just simply not how the Hebrew language works. So what can we conclude from all this? Well, we can conclude that sometimes we might feel as if we've gained some new revelation. We've heard something from somebody and is made us feel fuzzy inside because it sounds like, oh wow, Christ really it was in the beginning and Christ is in the Old Testament, and so that is evidence that he was there in the beginning. And it sounds like it'd be amazing if that were the case, but as it turns out, whoever taught this to you or wherever you're getting this information from, Jalen, it's just completely off. And I'm gonna hope that through some miracle of social media, that you get a hold of this and you can reply and ask me any questions that you might have, because honestly, like, there are so many people that are watching your videos, and I feel like you're kind of responsible for what you're saying. So I hope that this has been useful to you. I will go ahead and close up this late night reply video. And I'm Mark Peralta. And until next time, this has been Apostate of Mine.